Welcome in. Happy Saturday afternoon. Welcome into the Paul Kuharsky podcast, brought to you by Edley's Barbecue, best restaurant in and around Nashville, Tennessee. Paul Kuharsky, paulkuharsky.com. Best Titans coverage, news, analysis around, covering the team since 1996. Doing a short episode here today because there's news, because the Titans have asked to talk to 3 guys from the list of 16 guys that they talked to either by Zoom or in person in this crucial coaching search. And there's an interesting wrinkle to this whole thing. So Kevin Stefanski has been asked back and is expected tomorrow, but he's in Atlanta today. And so will the Falcons let him go if he is in fact their first choice, or will he be the Atlanta Falcons coach or coach in waiting tomorrow before he gets to Nashville? Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers, is asked back. He's one of the first 3 finalists. And Matt Nagy, who I know a lot of you are fearful of and think would just be a friend hiring a friend, as he worked with Mike Borgonzi, obviously, in Kansas City with the Chiefs. So those are the 3 initial finalists: Stefanski, Hafley, and Nagy. Now, there is room for more, and as I initially reported, I thought the list would be between 3 and 5. Oddly, the Titans, if Stefanski makes it to Nashville tomorrow, they'll be talking to Stefanski the same day that Jonathan Gannon is scheduled for an in-person interview. And we know he is not really a head coach candidate. He's more likely a defensive coordinator possibility for them. And then the 49ers obviously are playing later today. Robert Saleh, their defensive coordinator, is talking to the Titans in a first-round interview by Zoom tomorrow evening. So presumably the Titans would split off from Stefanski for a period of time to talk to Saleh, who I think has a good chance to become a 4th finalist. Now, the word is that Hafley is very high on Miami's list, maybe number 1 for them. And so the immediate conclusions I saw on social media after I posted that they were inviting these 3 guys back was, well, you have Stefanski, who looks like he might not make it out of Atlanta; Hafley, who is very much seems to be the guy that Miami wants, and that leaves the Titans conveniently with Matt Nagy, who people think that Borgonzi wanted all along. I think there are a lot worse candidates than Matt Nagy, but he's not my favorite on this list. He certainly would have very strong coordinators. I think the Titans were intentional about, in these 16 guys they talking to some good coordinator candidates. We haven't even gotten to Mike Kafka, who was not interviewed for head coaching positions, but is obviously out there. I think Brian Daboll is somebody the Titans might really like to have work with Cam Ward, and somebody who developed a relationship with Cam Ward leading into the draft, because the Giants were hopeful for a stretch that they would be able to wrest the number 1 pick in the draft from the Titans to go and draft Cam Ward. And so Brian Daboll, is the head coach of the Giants, and offensive guy, was certainly doing his prep work on Cam Ward. Now, again, there's room for 1 or 2 more here. I think Saleh has a good chance to get added to the list. I think if it would be one of these other guys that's already interviewed, that seems doubtful. I know people are hopeful about Mike McCarthy, who's in the building today, may still be in the building at 1:50 p.m. Central Time. And he's got a relationship, obviously, with Chad Brinker, and a lot of people like his resume. My sense of him is that, and this is not just my personal feeling about him, this is a feeling I've gotten, I did have, but I've gotten reinforced by others that I've talked to, other powerful people around the league that I've talked to about him, and that I think the Titans might also feel, I'm not positive, but is that he is a little bit outdated. And yes, I know he's had good success in the league, and that success, if he brought it here, would be, as good or better than what anybody's ever done with the Titans. But I do think, and I know, had a good offense with a veteran quarterback in Dallas. But I've said before, I think the number one trait a guy's got to have in a head coaching job in the NFL is relatability. You've got to be able to relate to the players. If you can't relate to the players, they're not going to respect you. A lot of problems that coaches have is being able to hold players accountable, and holding players accountable while keeping team camaraderie is a difficult task with, 22-year-old guys in the NFL these days. And I think that's a challenge for anyone. I think it'd be a challenge for Stefanski. I think it'd be a challenge for Nagy. I think it'd be a challenge for Hafley. But I think some of the appeal of Hafley is that he looks like a guy who could do some of these things. He'd be a structure, defensive discipline kind of guy. But I don't have a good feeling about Mike McCarthy in that department. And I've given the same example over and over, but they made a big deal of it when he was on Hard Knocks, when he was with the Cowboys, and he was showing them Austin Powers clips. And I just think a guy who thinks players circa 2023, maybe that was, are going to be rah-rah and tie into Austin Powers, which is 20, 25 years old, is missing out. And he needs to plug into stuff that's current for them and relatable to them, not current, quote unquote, current for him or of his era. And I think that illustrates kind of a guy who's out of touch with what he needs to be in touch with to relate to guys. So there's my start. Let's retweet, tell people we're here. Good crowd already, but we'll increase the size of the conversation, and I'll start taking questions, and I'll go back to the beginning. Good to see so many of you here. And of course, I need to lead forward to see, please not Nagy. Give me McDaniel, Saleh, or McCarthy. Give me Hafley, Adam says. All right, so I'm not just going to read everybody's wishes and desires. Yeah, I don't know how that was confusing that there, was a thumbnail of me up before I came live, but that's what that was. No McDaniel makes me sad, said Bustin' Diamond. I know there's been a lot of good video of McDaniel teaching and talking to people, but I think McDaniel is a strange bird. Maybe he still gets added to this list. I personally doubt it. And I think, I don't know, the most important thing here, or a very important thing, is that Borgonzi and the new coach, and Borgonzi talked about this way back when Callahan got fired, and the importance of the GM coach relationship. And when I look and listen to Mike McDaniel, and I look at and listen to Mike Borgonzi, I see two very, very different personalities. And I don't know. You guys tell me. Do you see those two puzzle pieces fitting together? I don't know. How many more will there be? There may be no more. I would think Saleh has a chance of getting added. And I think, if Stefanski disappears before he gets to town, then you'd only have two. Even if Saleh was in good position to add himself, maybe you'd add, whoever your fourth place, fifth place guy was anyway. Can McCarthy get hired today off a first interview? No. They're inviting people back. It wouldn't make much sense to me. And is McCarthy, I don't have it in front of me, but where else is McCarthy going, visiting? When will the last ones be announced? Well, we don't know for sure there are any others. They're not announcing things. People like me are reporting them. Let's make a distinction there. And don't know the timing. Again, I think it would only be potential for McCarthy or Saleh. And, McCarthy's not finished today, and Saleh not until tomorrow night. So maybe Monday. By all accounts, Sean said, Hafley is very impressive. Down to finalists before they interview Saleh. I'm not going to do anything to dissuade the I was always Nagy crowd. Well, again, Saleh could come in here. They haven't talked to him yet, and that's because of the limitations based on the 49ers playoff presence, more than anything else. So I would say, if Saleh goes in there and does what most of us think Saleh, the kind of impression that he could make out of a first interview, that there would be a good chance for him to get himself in there. They did not pass on McCarthy yet. McCarthy, as far as we know, could still be in the building. I think reportedly had dinner with them last night, may have had an informal meeting with them before this, and it's good friends, or not good friends, but friends with Brinker. So it's not like they don't know him. But he could still be there. But it's not positive they're going to have 4 or 5. We'll have to wait and see. Miami hasn't completed the Rooney Rule. Somebody could tell me what their schedule is and the timing. I mean, somebody says, let's pretend Ross cares about rules. It doesn't matter if he cares about it or not. He's obligated to fulfill it. I mean, I guess he could go hire Hafley, not obeying the rule, but he's going to get in substantial trouble. Why is Jason Garrett being seriously considered? Jason Garrett had 1 of 16 interviews, and he's not been mentioned since. So what's the frustration at this point with him? It smells like Nagy. Like, why does it smell like anything? Let's see what happens with Stefanski and Hafley. If they get hired by other teams, this list will expand. Presumably, yes. Why isn't McCarthy on my final list? This is not my final list. This is the Titans, the 3 guys that they have invited back. This has nothing to do with me. This is my reporting that has also been reported by some of the national people. Why isn't he on my final list? I've explained earlier. I think he's a little bit outdated and not a great evolver. Is he a contender? I don't know. Is McCarthy's ego too big to be an offensive coordinator? If I'm a Super Bowl winning coach that's got a big time winning record, I wouldn't be interested in being an offensive coordinator. And that wouldn't be an ego thing. That would be jobs I'm interested in working. I don't know what this is. Amy thinking Vrabels outdated. I don't know where that's coming from. You guys are throwing some weird stuff out there. McDaniel Buston is not getting a second interview at this time. Yeah, let's say this, Ryan. And Ryan's talking about the videos that have been cast about McDaniel. Well, first, we've got the Dolphins and the NFL whittling down the videos of McDaniel to make him look very good, right? So we've seen great video of McDaniel in teaching moments on the field and in moments in front of his team. That's the nature of Hard Knocks and these other things that have been made available. And then secondly, the people who are fans of his candidacy have taken what's out there and available and given us the very best of already the very best stuff. So we've seen fantastic stuff from McDaniel. But he's had cameras in front of him a lot. They were on Hard Knocks or whatever, maybe some other thing. I don't know if the Dolphins put out. I don't know where the source of all of this is. But let's make no mistake. There's no video of coaches in their bad moments and in bad leadership moments and in weird moments. And that's the buzz on McDaniel, is that he ultimately didn't hold a room well, and he ultimately didn't hold guys accountable and wasn't good. Now, there's no arguing that Mike McDaniel made a lot of players better. He didn't make NWI better, by the way, but he made Aaron Brewer better. He made Tyreek Hill, who was already fantastic, better. He made A-Chain and Mostert and a bunch of running backs who were nothing special before they got to Miami better. He made a lot of people a lot better. Now, that's great. I'd love that in a coordinator. I don't know if that guy's my CEO or not. And clearly the Titans don't think. I don't know. Look, people are asking questions as if we haven't been going here. The finalists at this point are Kevin Stefanski, Jeff Hafley, and Matt Nagy. Those are the three guys they've asked to come back for second interviews. Could it expand? Yes. Is it likely to expand to people that they interviewed, before today? Well, if so, why wouldn't they have included them in the phone calls that they made to ask guys to come back? So I think if it were to expand, maybe McCarthy, who's there today. Tomorrow, Jonathan Gannon there in person seems like more of a defensive coordinator conversation to me. Maybe Robert Saleh, who is talking to them by Zoom tomorrow night after the 49ers play tonight, right? And I think if you're a Titans fan, it would be better for you if the 49ers lost in Seattle. And then the strings would come off Robert Saleh, and he would be available this week to come talk to the Titans. Would they wait on Robert Saleh? If he had a great Zoom talk with them tomorrow night, are they going to wait on Robert Saleh? That's a hard thing to do. To wait another week and then hope that they lose the championship game, or you get to talk to them again, only electronically, I think, during the bye week before the Super Bowl, and then you're waiting another 2 weeks for San Francisco to play in the Super Bowl. I think that's a very hard thing to do. Is Kyle Pitts a candidate in free agency? Maybe. Jason Garrett's not going to leave a premier TV job to come be a coordinator. You guys have to kind of have a sense of what what kind of work certain people want to do. I like Saleh. That would be my guy of the remaining people who are possibilities. Does it feel clunky to me the way they're doing overlap of first and second interviews? Look, they have these first interviews scheduled. They have no control of the timing of Saleh, for instance. I mean, you have Gannon scheduled. Do you cancel him in order to make things? That seems uncool. But they've got to get moving on the seconds based on how things are going. So I think it's just the way things work. I mean, just because we know that McCarthy has been out for whining and dining, does that mean that other guys haven't been out for whining and dining? I mean, that's a big jump there to say, well, we know this guy was out to dinner, so they must really like him. We think these other guys have been starved. We think these other guys, they haven't offered them meals. They haven't taken them out to dinner. I would think everybody who's been here in person has been taken out to dinner. Why would we presume otherwise? Why would they spend so much time with McCarthy if they feel he's not a serious candidate and too old school? I think they might think he's too old school. Who said he's not a serious candidate? Who knows how much time they've spent with him? I don't know what time I tweeted that he's in the building. I don't know what time he'll leave the building. They were out with him to dinner last night, and they've been before. A to Z's reporting that they've met with him previously. That's unofficial in terms of an interview. So they had a pre-interview to the interview, or just dinner, bullshit at dinner. I mean, what would you like them to be doing during this time? What should they have been doing? On the night that they took Mike McCarthy out to a pre-dinner, if that report's accurate, and I have no reason to doubt that it is, what should they have been doing instead that night? Like, go talk ball with as many people as you can talk ball with when you have occasion to talk ball with them. He's got a wealth of experience. I would want to know what he thinks of Cam, what he wants to do with Cam. I said that about all these interviews. Talk to as many people as you can about as much as you can, but that doesn't mean you have to hire them. I thought that the 49ers would lose this game until I read Schefter this morning saying that Darnold hasn't thrown all week because of his shoulder problem. And all of a sudden, San Francisco looks like a better pick in this game. They did not interview Shula, and too many people are presuming like the Titans blew it and they didn't talk to Shula. Shula talked to 3 teams yesterday during his window, and the Titans weren't one. And that's, I think, more likely Shula not choosing to talk to the Titans. Kingsbury and the Titans haven't talked, and the Titans expressed interest there. Well, is that the Titans not being able to get fit Kingsbury in their schedule? Is that Kingsbury saying, well, I talked to Baltimore. I'm looking good for coordinator there. The Eagles are interested in me in coordinating, and I prefer those opportunities, and I think I've got a handle on one of those or something else that I prefer to the Titans. Why are we presuming the Titans are dropping the ball on these interviews instead of thinking maybe Chris Shula's got some opportunities and he likes those better than the Titans, or doesn't think he'll get the Titans job or whatever, or that Kingsbury doesn't want to be here when they're talking to 16 other people? Maybe I scrolled too far back here because you're all asking the same questions over and over. Why not this guy? Why not this guy? Burglar's got a mock draft that has Bain falling all the way to 10. So I'm presuming Bailey is then being taken over Bain. And there's a lot of Bailey hype going right now. Lot. Yes, I do think this, Ed Henry, and I've talked about this before. Do I think Nagy would come as a possible offensive coordinator if not a head coach? Calling plays and leaving Reed that big of a draw? Yes. Why not stay put and wait for Reed to hang it up? Well, who's to presume that he would be the guy that Veach and the front office and Hunt would want to replace Andy Reid? I mean, that's an awfully big job. And if Kansas City isn't promising him things, stay there and hope that you get tabbed to be Andy Reid's successor, or take a job now that puts you back on track if you do well to get another head coaching job. I mean, there's a reason I think that Nagy set things up that his contract is up now and that he's free to go. And I think he'll be coordinating somewhere besides Kansas City, somewhere where he's a play caller. I mean, all of these 9 jobs, as they start to get filled, there is going to be a landslide of action in terms of new coaches putting their staffs together. 9 offensive coordinators, 9 defensive coordinators. A lot of these hires are going to be on defensive side of the ball, where offensive coordinators are really going to be powerful jobs. And I think Matt Nagy could easily be offensive coordinator here if he doesn't get the head job. I think Brian Daboll, I would rank ahead of Matt Nagy as an attractive offensive coordinator. What if they hired Nagy as a head coach and gave him Daboll as the offensive coordinator? Nagy has said he doesn't want to call plays as the head coach. So that would be interesting. Look, I'm not charged up about Nagy, but I do think Nagy, probably has learned a lot from his experience. I think he's a smart guy. And I think if he came, he would have 2 good coordinators, and the power structure would be so much stronger, a more powerful power structure than it was under Brian Callahan. There would be a lot more hope even if we didn't really love the pick coming in. And whoever the pick is coming in, you're giving him a clean slate, watching him get to work. Yeah, the John Harbaugh thing's going to get sorted out. It's not coming apart to the degree that he's coming here. I'm sure Berganzi knows Kafka from Kansas City, and he would be a possibility as well. I mean, I'm imagining Stefanski's, I haven't checked in on his staff. I know Schwartz has been kept, and Schwartz may get that job in Cleveland. Stefanski's coordinators. I know Tommy Reese is a guy that has worked for him. Any word question suggests like I've got information and I haven't shared, and I'm waiting for somebody to ask me about it. Yes, I know all about Calvin Ridley, and I didn't run to my site and write about it. I was waiting for somebody to ask me on the podcast. I think Calvin Ridley's, I've said this multiple times, Calvin Ridley's fate with the Titans is far from determined. A lot of people presuming that he will be cut are premature. They have not decided on that. Yeah, I mean, I think just looking at one-loss records for guys that worked in tough situations is silly. So James is saying Nagy does have a better record than Saleh. And Nagy didn't do a great job after the first year. He did, have more success. Had bad quarterback. He had bad quarterback situation. Saleh had terrible quarterback situation and a much more dysfunctional organization. Falcons don't have a quarterback or first-round pick, which means you get more patience built in right from the start. Arthur Blank, hasn't been incredibly patient. Arthur Smith had 3 years, maybe 4. Raheem Morris just had 2. But Stefanski much more established than either of those guys coming in. And they know they don't have a quarterback. I mean, they haven't had a quarterback since Matt Ryan. There are several teams in the league that haven't had. Pittsburgh hasn't had a quarterback since Big Ben. A lot of teams are without a quarterback since. So David says he trusts Mike Borgonzi to make the right decision. In the meantime, he'll watch playoff football and way too early mock drafts. I mean, you're allowed to not look at mock drafts in January. Do I have any sense on the front office has interest in bringing Munch back as offensive line coach or recommending him to the head coach? I have no sense. I don't imagine that Mike Borgonzi knows him. So we shall see. Why are some sold on Saleh? I like his energy. I think he's a good energy guy. I think he's got a good relatability with players. If you watch 49ers tonight, watch how he and his defense interact. That's something I'd like the Titans to have again that they had in a big way with Vrabel that I think was very healthy for this team. I think he's a smart guy. I hear great things about him, and I think he'll learn from his mistakes. And I think in a more functional environment, not the most functional environment, but a more functional environment than the New York Jets offered, that he will fare better. And I think he's connected. And between he and Borgonzi, I think he could put together a pretty good staff. So we shall see. So one of the things that somebody told me about Nagy, and I posted a video about this, why so many people just feared Nagy, and there's more reason to fear him now, obviously, if you're anti-Nagy, because he's one of 3 finalists and the other 2 have more going on, was that Vrabel was, so loyal to his people. Now, I bet people overestimate like his level of friendship with some of these guys. He wasn't friends with Todd Downing when he hired Todd Downing to take over as tight ends coach when Arthur Smith got promoted, and then, chose to pipeline Todd Downing to be the next offensive coordinator, which was bad. And was he too loyal to Todd Downing and to a lot of his guys? Yes. Did he have too much faith in guys that he was bringing up as underlings? Jason Hodeling, to be offensive line coach after they fired Kevin Carter? Absolutely. And so somebody said this in the podcast yesterday. That's why people fear, Nagy. And that's why people fear the Titans doing the thing where they hire their friend and they're loyal to their friend, because the Titans for 6 years, fans watch the Titans for 6 years, watch Vrabel for 6 years, be overly loyal to his friend. And I countered that with Chad Brinker not hiring his friend, John Eric Sullivan, from the Packers front office, and hiring Borgonzi instead. And now Borgonzi had benefited from that very thing, the Titans not hiring their friend. And he's here because Brinker didn't hire his friend. And so maybe that has some meaning in him not hiring his friend. But Nagy goes from 1 of 16 or 1 of 6 or 7 who were more legitimate candidates to 1 of 3. And he's the 1 of 3 who's going to be the most available and have the least competition for him. Now I think collectively we're hoping it's 1 of 4. And that at least one name emerges, one more name emerges. That name, the most likely name there is Robert Saleh, and maybe McCarthy squeezes in there as well. Which of these two scenarios do I prefer? Saleh and Daboll, or Nagy and Raheem Morris? Yeah, I'm not that excited about Raheem Morris. And I've been on the Saleh bandwagon for a long time. So I'll take Saleh and Daboll. And if you haven't read it, still alive as a scenario, Drew Beatty took on a very ambitious project at Iron City Film on Twitter, and wrote at paulkuharsky.com yesterday, kind of an entire offseason simulation where he picked a coach and coordinators. He made cuts. He put together a free agent class, and he did a mock draft. And his coach was Saleh, and his offensive coordinator was Daboll. So you should head to paulkuharsky.com and read this piece. It's really well done and thorough. So when you're sitting on your couch after you're done watching this, that's a great read. A lot of you in here are members. Those of you who aren't, this is a great reason to subscribe to paulkuharsky.com. Support independent journalism on the Titans. Get the best news and analysis. Read everything I write. Blake Bedingfield post-game reviews. Mike Herndon's great analytics pieces, and he'll have something coming on these finalists soon. Braden Gall, who's got something up about the national championship game and the draft implications of that, and the semifinals. And now Drew, who does a lot of great film study, but this simulation, the mock draft, has a lot of film study in it too. All for less than the price of a cup of coffee or a fancy cocktail or IPA. So come on over and join up, please. And I'm sponsored by Edley's Barbecue, the best place to eat in Nashville. Fast, huge portions, great food, great service. Can't beat it. 8 locations in and around Middle Tennessee. They've got us surrounded. Can't go wrong eating there. And they've got an app. If you want the food to come to you, swear off DoorDash and Grubhub and all of that, order it. They'll bring it to you. The delivery fee is tiny. Edley's Barbecue, you can't do any better. Let's go down to the newest questions. I appreciate so many of you coming in on a Saturday afternoon. I know you're hanging out, waiting for the games. I'm due for a walk. I was waiting for this news to break. And probably to do a pod like this, and I need to get my ass moving. McCarthy will be announced as the head coach tomorrow. I mean, I just love when people make predictions and they state them as fact. It would be really insulting if they hired McCarthy off of his first interview when they're inviting people back for second interviews. Although maybe Nagy would keep Dinard, who knows, unless Dinard Wilson plans on looking for his own head coaching position. That's way too far along. He can't plan to look for a head coaching position. You don't get to go look for a head coaching position if nobody's looking for you. It's more important who's looking at you. If you're listening to this rather than watching it, I've got like my hand as a camera. The camera needs to look at you. It doesn't matter where you're looking. if nobody's interested in you as a head coach and nobody's interested in Dinard, he had one defensive coordinator interview, I think, with Washington. And I think Washington has hired. The finalists are Kevin Stefanski so far. Kevin Stefanski, Jeff Hafley, and Matt Nagy, with potential for more. I would think the most likely additional candidate would be Robert Saleh, who is interviewing by Zoom tomorrow evening after the 49ers, who he's defensive coordinator of, after he coaches tonight against Seattle, in Seattle. And Mike McCarthy's with the Titans today. He could still certainly emerge. A to Z's, I don't know if they've backed off reporting this as second interview. They've reported that the Titans had a get-together with McCarthy. I confess to not having read the story. I saw a tweet headline. I think it was a meal, perhaps. So they got together in some informal capacity per A to Z with McCarthy, but it was not an official interview, and this is his official first interview. I don't know if Stefanski makes it out of the Falcons building, and if he doesn't, that's another reason to me that they should, then have another guy on their list. I would think. I like Robert Saleh, who is still alive, so that would be my guy. I would love to see him paired with Brian Daboll or Matt Nagy. He can't bring in Spags. I don't think Spags is available. Spags was available to interview for a head coaching job because Spags is a coordinator. But I think Spags is a coordinator under contract with Kansas City. And if that's the case, he can't just up and leave. He'd have to get a promotion. And he would not be getting a promotion to come here and be the defensive coordinator. Thumb asks, am I surprised to see that Hafley, a coordinator, made the cut given what we went through with Callahan? No. I have no problem with them hiring a coordinator, a good coordinator. Look, you missed on one, obviously, but that doesn't mean that another one's going to be bad. I think Minter is another one who probably winds up being a good head coach. Hafley has some CEO experience. He was a head coach at Boston College. He didn't have good results, but the talk of him is that he is a good leader and a good culture guy and a stabilizer. We need help with staff selection, which is fine. Some of these guys are coordinator candidates that the Titans have talked to, and I'm sure made some inroads with. I would be comfortable with him as a Titans head coach. Obviously, we know the least about him, and it would be the biggest get to know you thing. I wouldn't hire another offensive coordinator who hadn't called plays before. That's the lesson from Callahan. And I certainly wouldn't hire a defensive coordinator and give him first-time head coach and give him two coordinators who hadn't called plays before and a first-time special teams coach. Odds are very high that John Fossil will be the special teams coach. So that's out of the realm of possibility, first-time special teams coach. Titans went far, far, far too inexperienced with Callahan. Not just Callahan, but what they let Callahan do staff-wise. And that's because they didn't have a strong head coach who at the rudder, a strong general manager, at the rudder. And Rand Carthon let all of that happen, and Chad Brinker, and turned out to bite them in the ass, which was bad. John asks, why is there this huge disconnect for Arthur Smith here in Tennessee? Tennessee was very good during his time here with the backup quarterback, Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill was not a backup quarterback. Ryan Tannehill's the second best quarterback this franchise had. You're insulting Ryan Tannehill. I mean, Arthur Smith did a good job, and Mike Vrabel did a good job of playing to the quarterback's strength, which is what you're supposed to do. But to call Ryan Tannehill a backup quarterback is ridiculous. I don't think there's a huge disconnect. I think the Titans respect Arthur Smith. He's just not a finalist for their head coaching job. Is he a finalist for any other head coaching jobs in the league? He interviewed with Arizona. I don't know that Arizona's put together any finalists, but I think the league is saying that it thinks that Arthur Smith is an offensive coordinator. I don't think he'd be the offensive coordinator here, though anything's possible. But I think he'll be an offensive coordinator, probably in a good spot. I think he's highly respected as an offensive coordinator. It's unfortunate, and while you're taking shots at Ryan Tannehill, it's unfortunate that he hasn't had a good quarterback capable of executing any kind of system designed around him with success since Ryan Tannehill. Let's see what else you got. Appreciate you all being here. Great crowd for a Saturday afternoon. Great crowd for any time. Tony says he's going to root for McCarthy, but did everyone forget his clock management problems in Green Bay and Dallas? I would hope that this new head coach has great clock management and a great clock management guy. And I'm not sure that Rob Reederer, who was Callahan's clock management guy, but I think a Chad Brinker person, and Brinker is the analytics spine of this organization. I don't think he did a great job helping Brian Callahan. I think the rules knowledge of the elbow qualifying as in or out of bounds was a fail, and Reederer surely had a hand in that. The timeout mismanagement early in the season, the errors that Callahan was making early in the season, his clock management / analytics guy who was in his ear had a role in, and I don't know why. He would be safe. I would hope the new head coach has a hand in determining who that is. Maybe has his own guy, or they make an outside hire there and an adjustment. And maybe Reederer remains an analytics guy, but isn't necessarily the guy in his ear. Is Mr. Topinka in here? Somebody's talking to Mr. Topinka. I send my well wishes and my family's well wishes to Ron. And I know Mr. Larison gives him a wave from St. Ignatius every Sunday, and we all smile at that. And we miss you, Ron. Smith, Ron doesn't even like Arthur as a good offensive coordinator. I will say he coordinated the Titans era offense that did the best ever, ranking number 2 in the Titans' best offensive year when he Tannehill, very effective play action quarterback, working with A.J. Brown, and obviously keyed around Derrick Henry. What else do we have? We're at 43 minutes. What kind of leash does the new coach get? Is it different for a veteran retread versus a younger one? Well, what do you mean by leash? I mean, I take leash as like how long before you fire him. And they're hiring this guy, hoping like hell he's going to be assigned to a new contract in 4 or 5 years. But what do you mean by leash? The Harbaugh deal is official. So anyone that was, I don't know if that's true. I presume it's true, but anybody that was holding out some crazy hopes of that falling apart, don't worry about it. Jeremy Beach, thanks for coming on. No problem. This is perfectly built for paulkuharsky.com to jump on at a time like this. What has Brinker, I missed it. What has Brinker done good analytics here? Well, I wrote a piece about John Shaw, speed coach that they hired. They never had a speed coach before. And they've got guys like Chig and Eilmanor and DK, the whole team really, working on not just maintaining their speed throughout the season, but gaining speed over the course of the season, which to me seemed like a preposterous idea. I never imagined it would be possible to gain speed during an NFL season when you're taking a beating every Sunday and trying to recover from that during the week and practicing and all of that. And their speed program to me is just the kind of thing that a guy like Chad Brinker talking about analytics should be bringing and has brought here. So there's one example of something really pushing the envelope. It's not hugely popular around the NFL yet, all the things the Titans are doing. I imagine it's going to become commonplace eventually. They're working on these resistant machines, and John Shaw knows that everybody has to hit his top speed at least once every week in order for this process to work. That was very educational to me. If you haven't read the story, you should search John Shaw and Paul Kuharsky and go find that story. That's the kind of thing that Chad Brinker's brought to the Titans. And if you want to shit on Chad Brinker, you can go ahead. But I would want that for my football team. And I think if you go look around the league, there are a lot of teams that don't have that. So there's an example. He's not a pool boy. It's crazy. What's the earliest? I mean, it's conceivable, if Stefanski makes it out of Atlanta and has a good Sunday, that it could happen, overnight Sunday or Monday. I wouldn't expect that, but it's conceivable. Yeah, I talked about this earlier, Blake. I mean, I think Mike McDaniel's very, very smart. Everybody agrees on that, but he's weird. And I think there are questions. I mean, people I've talked to have questions about his ability to hold the room, hold guys accountable. I think all the videos out there are the very best of his very best moments in which he looks fantastic. But I think there are moments that he is not like that are not captured on film and shared with the NFL rooting public. And I wonder, Mike Borgonzi's got a certain kind of personality. It's very important that these two personalities gel. And I'd love to be a fly on the wall listening to Mike Borgonzi and Mike McDaniel talk, because I think they're two very different personalities, don't you? Why do I think Saleh would be better than Stefanski? Personality type, largely. I think Stefanski is more laid back, probably would qualify as, I think he's edgier than Callahan, but he's more towards Callahan on the scale. Saleh's more towards Vrabel, and I'm more towards Vrabel. No problem if you're late to the stream, but if you've asked something that's been answered here, I'm going to refer you back to the beginning of the stream. Oh, yeah. Mariota started through week 6 that year, and Tannehill literally came off the bench. So he was a backup quarterback in that regard. If you're being literal, I have to give it to you and apologize. But he was brought in because they knew Mariota wasn't the guy, and they probably were going to have to turn to somebody else, and they positioned themselves to have somebody else that was good. And then the second year, you're not calling him the backup. He was the starter. And the third year, Can I explain why everybody loves Stefanski? Folks in Cleveland hated him, and he mismanaged the end of the game when the Titans beat him last year. Well, if he mismanaged the end of one game, you have to cross him off the list. He's a 2-time coach of the year in Cleveland. You know the size of that accomplishment based on that organization? I mean, he did some pretty amazing things in Cleveland, where they had a baseball guy directing the guiding the direction of the organization, and where they spent millions and millions and millions of dollars to handicap them against the salary cap on Deshaun Watson. So you may think the Titans are dysfunctional, but the Browns are pretty damn dysfunctional. I would say at a higher level, where they make moves that Titans are always changing shit, which isn't great. Browns put in, DePodesta, and what did he last, 8 or 9 years as a baseball analytics guy in power? The Browns signed that Deshaun Watson contract, which is going to have impact on that organization for what, 6 years, 7 years, and their salary cap? Pretty good offensive coach. To me, it's a personality question. All right, we'll go a couple more questions and we'll get back to our Saturdays. I don't know who McCarthy's offensive coordinator would be. I imagine McCarthy starts off calling plays at the very least. Favorite Mark Knopfler riff? Great question. Recently, I've gone through a Telegraph Road, like in my head, constantly listen to it almost every time I get in the car. Down to the Waterline, up there also. Obviously, I love Sultans, but everybody's going to say that. Telegraph Road. Last 5 minutes of Telegraph Road. Just unbelievable. I met Mark Knopfler once. I've met Mark Knopfler and I've met Greg Nettles. I'm Springsteen away from meeting like my big three. Retired CSM SF. Are the Titans considered a desired location? I would think not, based on historical front office failure and lack of a proven culture. Well, you're hired to come in and help fix those things. You don't want to make it sound like all these open jobs have great things. I mean, do you think Arizona has a great historical front office and proven culture? Or the Raiders? I mean, a lot of these open jobs. Baltimore's a very good open job. Pittsburgh has great front office success, though. Omar Khan doesn't seem to be doing much in terms of getting them a quarterback. They've got proven culture. Outside of those two jobs, you know, New York's history helped it higher. After that, who's got what you're who scores great in those two categories? Atlanta? No. Miami? It's got some history, more history than the Titans, but no. Stephen Ross has done some really dumb things. They have a proven culture in Miami. If they do, why did they fire Mike McDaniel? I mean, the Titans clearly scored well for John Harbaugh. He was number 2. They were number 2. Why were they number 2? Well, of these teams outside of Baltimore, you can include Pittsburgh in this list. Nobody's got a quarterback to start to build with that you could be excited about, except Giants, maybe, with Dart, who I'm not convinced is going to be a long-term guy, but maybe. Titans with Cam, who, you know, isn't a guarantee by anything, but it gives you something to start to work with when you come in. A lot of those other places, you're starting with 0. Any chance they keep Levis? Well, I mean, that decision hasn't been made. They've got to hire a new coach. He's going to assess the roster. He and his staff are going to assess the roster. Way ahead. Way ahead. Why is no one looking at Dinard for head coach? Can you imagine an owner or a GM standing at the podium saying, here is a guy who coordinated a defense that contributed to 6 victories over the last, 10, 20, 34 games. He's won 6 of the last 34 games for his franchise. It's just not something that's sellable. I think Dinard, I like him a lot. I think he's a good coach. I think he's going to have trouble getting a coordinator job based on work product, even though we know he did a lot of amazing things with a lot of really bad players. He was a fringe candidate in the coordinator side, Callahan cycle, right? No, it was he was getting to be a coordinator after being a defensive coach. That's the jump, not to head coach. Since then, you'd think his stock would have been boosted with the good work he's done. You're missing the win-loss record and the work product. What statistic in the last 2 years has the Titans defense been fantastic at? The Jeff Simmons is really good statistic. They've scored really well in that. I think Dinard's got a bright future. I think he's probably going to be a defensive back coach for at least a year somewhere, maybe 2. I don't know. Maybe he gets a defensive coordinator job. All those things are going to start to happen again after these 9 head coaches get hired. 8. 8 head coaches get hired. Then we'll see all of these guys start to land. I wish him the best. I think he's a terrific guy. I think he's done really good things. But it's not getting a head coaching job. He didn't get an interview. Jeremy's telling me to be prepared for them getting killed for hiring Nagy. I'll be one of the guys killing them. Who am I getting prepared for? I don't think it'll be a good hire, and I think it'll look really bad. But, after that initial reaction, then I'm going to say, hey, let's give the guy every chance. If I'm a head coach, wouldn't I want to start with 0 so I get to pick my guy? Not if I don't have the number 1 pick in the draft. Where am I picking my guy from? If he's not Fernando Mendoza, where am I picking my guy from? Have you looked at the free agent list of quarterbacks? Shit. Have you looked at the draft beyond Mendoza? Not hanging my hat on anyone. I'd much rather start working with Jackson Dart or Cam Ward. Much rather. And Moore went back to Oregon. I don't think he's great, but at least you get something there. Alabama kid, does he come out or not? Absolutely. Wilson everybody agrees he's been unfairly hamstrung with the bare bones pieces he's had. But those aren't the guys that get the jobs, generally speaking. Boston Diamond's talking about wanting good optics with the next hire. Well, I think the national media thinks Matt Nagy's good. They're not. The Athletic wrote a great rehabilitation piece about him. And you know what the national media judges a guy on is how good a source he's been for them. So if Matt Nagy's done a good job of talking to Rappaport and Pelissero and Schefter and Rossini, then they'll be all about it. We will be hearing the fire Nagy chants if they hire him. He'll be gone in 2 years. We'll see. You're allowed to let things play out. McCarthy is a yes man. Amy Burke, love it. And his name is Mike. I can't argue with the appearance of that. Can't argue with it. Miss Titans playoff football. Again, look, it's been a while, but you can't play this long-suffering card. 5 years ago, they're number 1 seed in the AFC. 5? Oh, my God, it's been so long for the Titans fan. If you're 10, it's been a long time because it hasn't happened in your rooting life. You're not 10. So it hasn't been that long for you in the context of National Football League. If you're not, a franchise that's there all the time, if you're not the Ravens, if you're not the 49ers, if you're not one of those teams, and the Titans are not one of those teams, and hopefully they're one of those teams one day. But if you're not one of those teams, then the Titans are not terrible in terms of playoff appearances. They're there. They cycle in and out. But they're not, the Jets. They're not what the Lions were. I have to go through this all of the time to convince you that you're not the long-suffering Titans. In the last, 7-8 years, you've been to an AFC Championship game and you were the number 1 seed in the playoffs. That's not that long ago. That doesn't make what's going on now good, but it is historical fact. And we'll end maybe on that. The JMK. Thank you, PK. Playoff absences for the Titans have been short. Signed, the Jets. And the Jets shouldn't be the team that the Titans compare themselves to. But are they ever going to be, the Ravens with the ownership that they have? I think that would be, I think that's a pretty lofty goal. I don't, of course you should want and expect that. But if you get a team that goes to the playoffs once every 3 years, let's start with that. Let's start with that. PaulKuharsky.com. Check it out. Go join my my Instagram or my Facebook pages. I'm doing a lot more work there lately, so I'd love to have you. I'm doing reels, and it'd be good to have you. PaulKuharsky.com. A lot of good stuff there. This Drew Beatty piece I told you about, you need to read it. Mike Herndon coming soon with stuff on the finalists. I'm doing my best to break some of this stuff. I'm right there. But the analysis comes quick. Look, and the members who are in here got a text message from me that I was going live, which is a nice, convenient bonus of membership. So you've got that going for you. Go eat at Edley's or order from there sometime soon with their app. And I encourage you, as you know, don't block the box, but please be sure to lock your locks. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the football afternoon. Go for a walk now. That's what I'm going to do.